Hello, I am Carrie Ann Edwards, trustee of Technology for Youth, a technology enrichment program that provides young learners with the skills needed to code and prepare for future careers in technology. We are here with principal and founder of The Art of Money Matters, Tricia, the incomparable Taitt. She's here to talk about The Art of Money Matters, a company providing the financial expertise and big picture perspective that help businesses drive profitability, improve cash flow, and create more efficient financial operations. Welcome, Tricia.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so happy, first of all, to see you. You look beautiful as always.
You too.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the art of money matters?
All right. So, again, hi, everybody. I'm Tricia Taitt. I'm principal of the Art of Money Matters. I've been a finance professional now going on 21 years. That feels crazy to say. The first 8 to 10 years I spent in corporate finance and Wall Street at a large bank and broker dealer. Initially, I was on the sales side for private client. And then after business school, I shifted into, after business school at Fuqua School of Business, I shifted into corporate finance. So internal corporate finance, working with CFOs of different departments and analyzing financials, looking for opportunities to increase profitability across that particular bank that I was working for. And then the Great Recession hit in 2009.
I remember that well.
The funny thing is, around that time, I was doing some personal soul searching because there's an entire other side of my life that I didn't really explore deeply. And I was like, how am I ever going to jump off of this treadmill and maybe try to pursue that? And so the recession, blessing in disguise, gave me the opportunity to pursue a professional hobby of mine for about 5 years. And well, that has to do with dance. That's a whole other story. And during that time, I was trying to figure out how can I leverage my background in finance. I've been doing finance since college at Wharton. How do I leverage my background in finance and accounting, but in a more meaningful way? Working in corporate was great dollars, great money, but I felt like a peon, honestly. And so when I was in sort of the performing arts nonprofit space during that 5 years after leaving Wall Street, people realized that, oh, you're a creative, but you also love numbers. How does that work? And oh, by the way, we have this project, that project, and the other project. Can you jump in and help us out? So I started doing budgeting and bookkeeping and analyzing the financials for smaller budgets. And when I say smaller budget, it wasn't a corporate budget, it was still a $3 million budget, $5 million, even $500,000 budgets. But I started, working with smaller businesses. And then I realized, hey, I can really leverage my background and have more meaning. Meaning, I can see it from beginning to end. I know a lot of small and mid-sized nonprofits and for-profit businesses don't really have access to the level of accounting and financial expertise that corporations do.
Not someone that comes out of Wharton, right? They don't have access to that at all.
No, they don't. I always call myself the quintessential non-Whartonite because I need to see a double bottom line. I need to have I need for my life and what I'm doing to have meaning and have a greater purpose.
Okay, right? So let's back up because you're skipping over the juiciest parts of your story, right? Because and so we'll start again with, tell us about your journey and why you decided to lean out of corporate America and into entrepreneurship, and you started doing that. But I think that it's important for you to talk about dance because that's a part of your journey, and that sort of, I feel like, gave you, sort of the nod, the okay to go ahead and kind of flip, right, and go into this new world, right, of entrepreneurship. So tell us about that. Let's start with that.
It's so interesting that even till today, you see, I did that. I skipped over it because it's important to me. But when I'm doing a lot of these interviews and podcasts, they're speaking to me from a financial perspective, and I'm not always sure if people are going to see the connection, even though it matters to me. I actually don't really care what other people think, but I'm gonna.
I know you don't.
I'm gonna dive into it since you prompted me. I love that. So my entire life, I have wanted to be a professional dancer, but I always was a math nerd and had a knack for math. And as a first generation American, I don't know how many of you out there are first generation Americans. Your family doesn't consider dance to be a real job. And
so they don't consider dance to be a real job? What do you mean? Dance is a real job. Come on.
Girl, it is a real job.
Girl, you're leaving your good corporate America job to go dance? Have you lost your mind?
Have you lost your mind? Your $1 million education? I even had a cousin that said that. They were like,
wait a minute, private school guilt much? Private school guilt?
I had no guilt about it. This actually goes back to a deeper spiritual, we don't get spooky deep here, but there's a book that I love called The Purpose-Driven Life, and I've read it multiple times.
Who's the author? Do you know who the author is?
Rick Warren, Purpose-Driven Life. And I read it around the time where I was leaving corporate America, but while I was in business school when was that? 2004 to 2006. In 2006, my last year in business school, I was like, I'm not going back to corporate America. I ended up going, but I was like, life has to be different somehow. And when I was in North Carolina at Fuqua School of Business, a dance legend was down there. His name was Chuck Davis. And he had auditions. And I was like, what are the chances I'm gonna go do this audition? Mind you, my entire life, I still stayed close to dance and I was still training, but not in a professional way. And so I went to the audition, I got the opportunity, and I was like, what if I take the chance, like a gap year? You know how people do that in college?
Yes.
When I was doing in business school? I was like, what if I take the chance and I go dance with him for a year, but now I have to make sure that my good corporate job is gonna allow me to do so. And I asked the hiring director, and she said, yeah, you could defer a year. And of course, my family was like, did you get that in writing? Did you get the signature? Are you sure you have a job afterwards? And so I stayed after graduating from business school. I stayed an extra year in North Carolina, danced for a company, African American dance ensemble in modern and contemporary West African dance. And then I came back to New York. And when I came to New York, that dance legends connect me to his dance son. And then I was introduced to the Forces of Nature Dance Theater, which is based in New York. And I have been a member for 12 to 13 years. So even when I rejoined corporate America in, 2007, I started dancing with this pickup company on the side. And honestly, for 2 years, I was wavering. I was like, I can't do this Wall Street thing anymore. And then the recession hit. So that's the timeline. The recession hit in 2009. I was already dancing with this company and going training after work. And then I was like, you know what? What would it be like to be a full-time dancer in New York City? I never had that experience. So being a mathematical person, I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 years. I'm going to be on Beyonce's tour or do something in LA or be on Broadway, something.
Exactly.
5 years. And in the 5 years, I was going to audition. I probably made the least amount of money I ever made in my life. I was going on auditions. I was teaching Pilates. Yes, I got into Pilates. I was teaching Pilates at Equinox, at private studios. I was keeping my lifestyle flexible so that if I got a big thing that I could go. So I was auditioning everywhere. And I would spend 5 hours at an audition just to be seen and sing one song for 10 seconds.
I think all the artists out there know that life really, really well.
It's crazy. And also at that point in my life I was late 20s, early 30s. You're considered old in the eyes of the dance world at that point. So I was really in a place where it was like now or never. Yeah. Right. And I was competing against people coming from Boston Conservatory and Juilliard or AMDA, who had been training for Broadway their entire life. And eventually in 2012, I got the Broadway tour for the musical Fela. Yes. And I was in that tour for about 6 to 9 months in 2013. Yes. So like I left all of that out But behind the scenes to make money, that's when I started doing freelance consulting, financial consulting for small businesses.
But you were combining two things that you loved, right?
Yeah.
Who's to say that we can't be math geeks and love to dance and want to pursue both? There's nothing that's going to stop you. The only thing that you knew is that you had constraints. So you had to decide, okay, I need to be more flexible. So the only way to actually have both and be flexible in both is to be an entrepreneur, right? Because that affords me to not have to be on a 9-to-5 schedule. I work when I want to work. I take on clients as needed and all that. So I think that that is exactly right. And I think that for all of our viewers that are watching this, it's important for them to realize that, right? That you can be a math geek, you can be an artist, and you can combine it and call it the art of money matters, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that was essentially the basis for the name of my company. People, you know, some people love it. Some people are like, oh, it's too complicated. But it came from me as the founder. And I think it's very important to say in this moment, I did mention the book, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Within that book, he says that everyone inherently is born with certain skills, abilities, talents that that God puts in you, whatever your faith and your background, but a higher being puts within you. And it is up to you. Your job in life is at some point to align with those things. So I firmly believe the reason why I had to fulfill or go further down the path of dance is because it was something that was in me. It was part of one of those things God said, Heaven said, that was aligned within me. I was meant to be high in math and numbers. I was meant to be high on the creative side. And that's what life is about. It's about exploration and discovery. And so if you're making choices, I didn't necessarily plan to be an entrepreneur. But when you're making these choices in life, you also have to realize that there is an offset. So like I couldn't live my same fabulous Wall Street lifestyle in the very beginning because I was building up to something and I wanted a different life than the regular trajectory that was in front of me. So you also have to be willing to let go of some other things and sacrifice a little bit.
See, I don't like to call it sacrifice though, right? It's prioritizing. It's prioritizing, right? You have to get your priorities straight to get to your goals. You weren't sacrificing, because sacrificing has this negative connotation. No, you were actually saying, okay, what's more important at this moment in life? Not to say that in 15 years, that it won't be about that hot ride or those spa treatments and that big house, right? But right now it's like, let me prioritize what I'm doing right now, which is my career. And I love that.